You're watching someone else's kids at a family gathering. They're running around being loud, asking for things without apology, melting down over something small, getting scooped up and held, and something happens in your chest that you can't quite name. Not jealousy exactly, something quieter, something that feels almost like watching a movie about a country you've never been to, but somehow feel homesick for. You were never that child. I came across this recently, and it stopped me completely, because it describes something I had never had words for before. You don't have a lot of memories of being held just because you needed it, of being loud without consequence, of falling apart and having someone catch you. What you have instead are memories of being capable, of being praised for how mature you were, of adults in your life leaning on you, confiding in you, needing you to hold things together. You were responsible. You were reliable. You were the easy one, the strong one, the one who never caused trouble. And you carried that like a badge, because no one told you it was a wound. Here you are now, an adult who is competent at almost everything and quietly terrified of needing anything. Someone who takes care of everyone around them and then lies awake at 2 in the morning, wondering why they feel so hollow. Someone who can hold a crisis together, but cannot sit still without feeling vaguely guilty. Someone who, when asked what they want, genuinely does not know. You didn't lose your childhood to neglect the way most people picture it. You lost it to responsibility, to being needed too young, to a role you never applied for and were never allowed to put down. Psychologists call this parentification, when a child is pulled into an adult role before they are developmentally ready. Not always because of abuse, sometimes because of a parent's mental illness, or addiction, or depression, or divorce, or simply because no one else was available. And the child, who is wired to attach, who needs connection more than almost anything, figures out the only way to stay close, become useful, become needed, become the adult in the room. Your nervous system learned that your value was in your function. That love arrived through what you could do, not through who you were. And so, the normal developmental experiences of childhood, the messiness, the neediness, the play, the falling apart and being caught, never got to happen, or happened only partially in stolen moments, and always with the low hum of guilt that you were taking up time you should have been spending being responsible. There is a pattern called nervous system dysregulation that develops in children who carry too much too young. Because childhood is not just play. Childhood is when your nervous system learns what safety feels like. It is when you learn that you can be messy and still be loved, that you can need things and not be abandoned, that the world does not fall apart when you fall apart. When that learning gets skipped, when instead your nervous system learns that your job is to hold the world together, not fall into it. You arrive in adulthood with a body that does not know how to rest. That treats stillness like danger. That can handle crisis, but not peace. Research shows that adults who experience parentification as children often struggle with something that sounds like a contradiction. They are extraordinarily capable and deeply unsure of their own worth because the capability was always conditional. The praise was always for what you did, never just for who you were on an ordinary Wednesday when you hadn't accomplished anything particular. Bessel van der Kolk wrote that the body keeps the score, and your body kept score of every year you spent being capable instead of cared for. It lives in the way you tense when someone offers to help you, in the discomfort you feel at a restaurant when you have to choose what you want, because choosing what you want is a skill you genuinely never practiced. It lives in the way you feel most comfortable when you are useful and most anxious when you are not. In the way you do not know what to do with a quiet Sunday that belongs entirely to you. You feel it at work, where you are the one everyone depends on, because being depended on is the most familiar form of belonging you know. You feel it in your relationships, where you take care of everyone and then feel invisible when no one asks how you are doing. You feel it in the strange, specific grief of watching someone else be taken care of and feeling something you cannot name. The word for it is longing, and it is completely, entirely understandable. There is a childhood you never had, and you cannot go back and have it. That grief is real, and for most of your life, you have been carrying it without ever knowing what it was. This is the part that most psychology channels completely skip. The child who was never allowed to be a child becomes a very specific kind of adult. You might find it almost impossible to ask for help without immediately offering something in return. The asking feels like debt before the words are even out. You might find that you are drawn to people who need rescuing, Not because you enjoy the drama, but because caretaking is the most familiar love language you have. You might find that compliments land strangely, that being told you are wonderful feels less real than being told you are useful, because wonderful was never quite what was asked for. You might find the play, real, purposeless, unproductive play, makes you anxious. Your body does not know what to do when nothing is being asked of it. You might find that you are waiting, without quite knowing it, for someone to finally ask how you are and mean it, to hold space for your struggle the way you have always held space for everyone else's. You might find that you don't fully know who you are outside of your responsibilities, that without someone to take care of or a problem to solve, the question of your own identity feels genuinely open. None of this is who you are. It is what you learned. Healing for you begins with the most radical, unfamiliar thing: being the one who is cared for. Inner child work is where this lives, sitting with the young version of you who never got to be young, not to feel sorry for them, but to give them something they never received: permission to be messy, permission to need, permission to exist without producing anything. You can do this in writing, in therapy, in guided meditation, but the heart of it is the same. You find the child who was skipped, and you go back for them. Learning that rest is not the abandonment of self means practicing stillness even when your body resists it, sitting with the discomfort of a free afternoon, watching something just because you enjoy it, eating something just because it tastes good. These are not indulgences. For you, they are acts of recovery. And therapy, real, consistent, this is for me therapy, is where you practice the most important thing you never learned: being in a relationship where you are not the caretaker, where your feelings are the ones that matter for the hour, where your needs are the point. Jung wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." You are not given that privilege easily, but you are allowed to claim it now, slowly, imperfectly, in whatever small ways you can manage today. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole. You are not broken for struggling to receive what you spent your whole childhood giving. You are someone who aged without getting to grow up, and who is now, finally, quietly, learning what it feels like to be held. That is not weakness. That is one of the bravest things a person can do. More of this is coming, because you deserve to understand yourself, all of you, not just the capable parts.